How would I describe myself? And that is a very, very good question.
I would describe myself as formidable.
Easygoing, very laid back, can be serious and can't be serious at times.
I think I describe myself as somebody who is loyal, committed, very passionate.
I'm a 21-year-old student and I would describe myself as African Caribbean.
I describe myself as mature, hardworking and friendly.
I would describe myself as a little bit reserved, although I am confident.
Hardworking young man, 23.
I would describe myself as a black female, an outgoing person, a bubbly person, very loud.
A young individual, somewhat of a simple individual, but also someone who has depth.
I would describe myself as mixed race, dual heritage, African Caribbean and Scots. Very proud of the Scots side as well.
Bit of both. I'm kind of serious sometimes, funny, hardworking, honest, helpful. I'm a musician, very dedicated about music, very passionate about music.
Wow, loud.
How do I see myself? Tough question, isn't it? Say vibrant.
It's outspoken, very loud at times, yeah. But to the point, yeah, no nonsense woman.
Kind of hard to put myself into words. I'm like a kind of like a mashup of experiences and different things. So I'm just me. I'm just me.
When I was growing up, I didn't see the color of my skin. My best friends were a Sikh guy, Jagdeep Thakur, a Hindu guy, Ajit Patel, Mornington Tilly, Muslim, and Philip Waite, who was English Christian. We used to go around to each other's houses, drink tea, you know, talk about things and have a great time. We didn't see color, we didn't see religion.
There was times, I remember, especially going to Glenbot School in the first year, where I used to wish I was white, you know, because I was the only black child there. And when if you've never been called this in your life and you come from a family where you don't see that kind of aggression and it's hurtful. And you get it from the teachers, you get it from the girls or the boys, or they ask you silly questions. Have you got a tail?
I remember when I was probably about 6, in between 6 and 9, and I just remember being at home. This is when we lived in Bestwood Estate in Nottingham, and I was sitting on my mum's lap, and I think my auntie Joy, my mum's second oldest sister, was round, and we just happened to be talking, and somehow we got onto the topic, and I thought I was white, you know? I was there having like as an intelligible conversation or debate with my auntie as possible, but I was saying, no, Auntie Joy, listen, I'm white. And she's like, no, Ramon. She's trying to explain to me the best she can, but that for me, when you said that you used to want to be white, that happened.
And know? For me, it was like, I want to be accepted.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't feel what they felt, you know, and I didn't know what caused it. So I just wanted to be friends, let's get on, and I'm just like you, I'm no different.
Yeah.
And I thought if I could change myself slightly, then will you accept me? You know?
Yeah. Things like wanting straight hair. Like I remember.
Well, I did all that as well.
Yeah. I remember PE times, you know, I don't know, we'd finish having PE and everyone's getting ready again. And my white friends, they'd just go up to the tap, put some water in their hands like that. And I'd think, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
Why it just shrinks, you know?
I enjoyed secondary school, however, I think it is actually one of the most brutal aspects of education that you go through. It's like, obviously, the point when you're growing up. Identity-wise, secondary school was hard for me in the sense that people start to realise what you look like and you start to realise what you look like. In primary school, it's not an issue. It doesn't matter if you're big, you're small, you're black, you're white, you look like this, your hair looks like this.
A teacher once, I was skiving and I was playing basketball in the playground on my own, and she's come out of the classroom and she gave me the B's and the F's and whatever I get in the classroom, you know. And it was like being told in that way from a teacher, it was like, you know, it's like that's your big sister telling you off or something, do you know what I mean? And tell your mum, do you know what I mean? So it's kind of stuck around, because it's like I almost needed to hear that, you know. She actually kept me in the class until I got the work done.
My parents wanted me to take me out of Radford and Lenton to send me to a posh school, if you like, in Wollerton, and it'd be better off for me because where I lived, it was all the black area. It was rough, there was gang things, there was truancy. So by sending me to a better school, in their minds, it would have been good for me. I suffered at school, you know. At that age, you know, there's lots of racism thing. I was bullied every day, beaten up in the toilets, and even when I complained to the teachers, they say, "Oh, William, shut up, don't be silly."
I was a rude kid, so I got the cane, I got what I was supposed to get, but I was a smart kid. And teachers, for me, I have enough respect because in the 80s, the teachers, they taught, the teachers, they cared about you. And as a black youngster growing up in Highfields, the majority of our teachers were white. And what they did, they cared about us as young people. And what they said is that they made us feel like we could achieve.
A lot of teachers when I was at school couldn't really manage classes or teaching that well, and they didn't really identify my potential, but also not the potential of lots of other people too. And there was, you know, clear differences in the way that their expectations of some girls based on class and colour than there was of other girls. And I would say that I was pretty much invisible at school.
I hated everything that there was to know about school, to do with school. Didn't like school, hated the fact that I had to attend school, didn't like it.
The teachers used to have this thing like putting you down, like if you ask a question and, you know, like they wrote something on the board you didn't understand and you put your hands up. Sometimes they would ignore you or tell somebody else tell you. And he says, no, I want you to tell us. And then they used to say, oh, you're ignorant. Why don't you go back to where you come from, your mud hut? And I used to wonder what a mud hut was.
There was one day, one of my brothers had an altercation with one of the teachers, and some of the pupils came to fetch me. And let's say that I dealt with it. And I had the teacher next period. The teacher opened the storeroom, went into the storeroom and left the keys in the door. So I shut the door, locked him in the storeroom and went home for my mum. I fetched my mum, and me and my mum were standing outside the door while he was cursing. And he just happened to say that I should go back and swing in the trees where I came from. So I unlocked the door, my mum was standing there, and she just grabbed him and took him across to the headmistress's office. He didn't get into trouble, unfortunately, but I did.
In this particular day, I never forget his name. He was quite, his name was Stephen Yeomans. Hit me. Wrong thing you did. And I picked up this stone, and you know, and if you come from the Caribbean, right? I just follow him around with my hands like they got the stone. And all in just here, just passing, boom, boom. Next minute, I was in front of the headmaster. He says to me that he wanted me to bend over and lift up my dresser for smacking me. Ain't crazy.
I think the Race Relations Act has made it made life a little bit more easier for me and other black young individuals.
I don't think the Race Relations Act has made a difference to me.
I'd say it's definitely made a positive impact, but I'd still say there's still room for improvement.
And we have to understand the context in which that act came into place, you know, and we think of the signs saying, the colour bar on certain working places, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
An issue with some of these acts and some of these things that are put through is they're hitting their targets, but they're missing the point.
I don't know whether that's made people a little bit more PC and people are a bit more guarded about what they say in public.
I think nothing's really changed. It shouldn't be that what my mum was doing in her 20s, I'm still doing now.
It's more like we will give you the job, but we won't let you become management.
And there were so many clear levels of discrimination across the country that something had to be done.
Last year, the Commission for Racial Equality and Nottingham Community Relations Council published a report, Half a Chance, that proved that many employers still discriminate on racial grounds despite the Race Relations Act. The latest figures show 36,000 black youngsters under 25 on the dole. That's more than a third of all unemployed blacks.
You apply for jobs and you go and they would say the job's gone. You get so frustrated, and this particular day I was really down in the dumps, because you ain't got the money. And I applied for this job and I phoned up and the man says to come in for the job. It was just a cleaning job, which I didn't really want to do, but all right then. When I got there, I don't know if because of my name, he says to me the job was gone. And I went, anyhow. Later on in the afternoon, looking in the newspaper again, the same job was there. So I phoned up and he says, yeah. And I says to him, I just came in this morning for the job, yesterday morning, and you tell me the job was gone. And I slammed the phone down. So after that, I kind of built up a resistance, like this says, yeah, I know what I'm going to do. And then this time I seen a job and I phoned up for it. And it says, after he says, yes, the vacancy's here. You can come in for the interview. And I says, great. And I went, by the way, I'm black and I'm big. And he said, that's all right, I'm a big Irishman, come on in.
I was a very, very good footballer, and a lot of people don't know, very, very good footballer. And I played for Leicester City boys, and obviously my parents couldn't drive, they couldn't afford anything. So anytime I had to go anywhere, I either had to run there or try and just get there somehow. And we went away to Nottingham, we played at Nottingham Forest. So I was the only black player on the team, played centre forward. Everybody had their parents. And at the time, I didn't realize it, but I didn't enjoy it because I felt like nobody was passing me the ball, and there was all these different faces, and I didn't feel a part. And this is when I was 15, 16. But this was something that strengthened me because it made me realize I had a choice. Do I do basketball or do I do football? And back then it was really racist. So I had to make those choices, but it made me stronger. It didn't make me hate football, it didn't make me hate other people.
There's another barrier facing only black youngsters, which pushes their chances of success even further out of reach. Racial discrimination.
I'd applied for a job in Pearson's in town. Now this used to be a quite posh shop. And I went there on the Friday and I was interviewed by the assistant manager. She gave me a letter telling me that I'd got the job and I start Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Monday morning at 9 o'clock, I presented myself in Pearson's. And when I got there, it wasn't the assistant manager, it was the manager. So I showed her my letter. She says, no, there's been a mistake. And I says, no, the lady said I've got the job. She says, no, she's made a mistake. And I says, why is that then? She says, because we don't have black people working in this store.
Did you make many applications?
Yeah, I lost count. Lost count halfway through, yeah.
What will you do if you don't get a job?
Well, I've got no intention of going back on another scheme for 23.50.
I'm not always given the best possible chance by employers, but I think once I get a chance to talk and to express the person that I am and what I represent and what my whole emphasis signifies, then I feel like I'm better equipped to go and get the job rather than just give them my CV and hope that they give me a ring.
Yeah, I'd agree with Kyrie. I think when you come in as the person that you look like, you get a few ums and ahs, what's going to happen here, what will she be able to bring? And then you start to talk and it's quite clear that you can actually bring something to the table and you're worth employing.
You weren't allowed out of Highfields. If you went out of Highfields, you'd have got beaten up because of the colour of your skin.
There have been riots when the National Front have held rallies in places like Leicester and Corby in North Hants.
It was scary at times. I mean, I remember seeing skinheads walking around, and it was scary to see. I remember going through town with about 4 of us with a band, finished rehearsal one night, was walking through town, and I remember being chased by about 15 guys with sticks and chasing us, and I remember being stopped in the city centre when the police come to just jumped in to stop, and they weren't trying to protect us.
We very much had a sense of struggle because we were in Thatcher's Britain. And I think young people were very much more, not everybody, but there was quite a few politicised young people. We were kind of polarised around things like CND, Anti-Nazi League, Red Wedge, all these kind of things, and they were very kind of hip things to be involved with. So, you know, you went on marches and everybody had a standpoint on the miners' strike, and in our house we actually had some of the miners from Nottinghamshire staying with us, and we worked for the miners' welfare and, you know, stuff like that.
So I used to work in one of the, at the time, the #1 nightclub in Leicester, you know what I mean? And I was the only black person there, apart from another bar staff. But when you look in there, it's just a nightclub of 700 people, and there might be just 2 black girls, go on. And the black guys them that was allowed in, they were like the footballers, the cricketers, but the ordinary Joe Bloggs, yeah, he's worked there on the door outside.
I felt really angry. A lot of people probably wouldn't understand it, but when I turned 18, my first bar job was at the Palais, the club that never used to let us in. You'd been to town on the Saturday afternoon to Chelsea Girl, you'd brought your outfit, you'd got your hair done, you'd got dressed up, you paid your bus fare to go into town, you're walking up the steps of the Palais and the bouncer says, "Not tonight."
The young black men and women who was the forefront of things and have vision, what they did, they said, all right then, we've got to keep Connie quiet. Let us open up a community centre. Oh, Connie, come here. You're the leader and things like that. You have the biggest mouth. We'll give you a job for 10,000 a year. You never had a job before. He says, what? 10,000 a year? And you can have everybody in here. You can do your music, your dancing. So you have your little community centre and you go to it, and he's got perhaps get a little job, a little car, and he's thinking he's doing well. And then everything just slowly just cool down. And then one day, 10, 15 years in, look around, funding cut. He's back to square one where he started from in the first place.
You know, some of us perhaps took our eye off the ball because we felt like, well, we've made it now, everything's okay. No, it isn't. Things can change back again. The tide comes in and the tide goes out.
I experienced racism and have experienced racism, but it doesn't keep me down. If anything, I try to flip it and bring love, you know.
I always think that there's always going to be racism in the workplace, out the workplace, on your street.
As a black man, it is still, some doors are still closed because the more you climb that ladder, the less colour you see.
When my mum was younger, she used to see racism directly to her face. And me, I rarely see racism directly to my face. I see discrimination. I see people being horrible to me because I am a certain colour, but I never see direct racism.
That's racism though, then. Yeah, that's racism.
But I mean, they're not directly saying you're a this and you're that, but they're saying that you can't get this job, and they're not giving me a reason, but I know it's because I'm a certain way, but at least I've been given the chance to try and get it.
Okay.
In a certain way.
I wouldn't even say that it's been hidden. For me, I've experienced racism walking down the street, in classrooms, at work.
I feel discriminated, and I don't mind. I'll be straight. I don't mind because that's just the way the world. I'm too busy to worry about what someone else thinks of me. What someone else's negative energy they're pouring towards me. I have no time for that. Things only have the power that you grant them. So if someone's throwing shade or negative energy or derogatory comments this way, I ain't got time to catch them. Like I'm too busy trying to be a positive example.
I don't like the police whatsoever. I just don't respect the uniform really, because like the power they're given and the way they abuse it in my eyes.
I remember being out with a few friends and police would come over and they'd just be nosy, oh, what you doing? Oh, what music's like you listening to? And it's like, well, we're not your friend. Like, why have you come over here to socialise? They're not coming over to socialise, they're sort of learning information to sort of see how we can be targeted in the future, I think.
Too much power can just put your hands in your pockets and whatnot, so.
I don't like the police, but in the same sense, I like the job that they do, and I wouldn't want to do that job myself, so who else is going to do it?
With the police, I've heard of a lot of, you know, unjust behaviour, I'd say, in a nice way. Young men being beaten up, you know, unnecessarily picked up and dropped in an area that wasn't their own, which is kind of obvious what's going to happen next. My father's and my uncles involved in the riots, beaten up by the police, sort of the same old story, basically.
The English Defence League came to Leicester. I was out and the police were kind of circling for a few days before they even came. And just to kind of show an increased police presence and, you know, to kind of make people feel better. And then one day, the day that they came and it all kicked off, we were in Highfields actually, and there was an agreement amongst like local residents that they would block all the entrances into Highfields because it was well known that the English Defence League wanted to go to all the communities where there were ethnic minorities, Highfields, Belgrave and St Matthews, which are all outside of town. And we were on Conduit Street, which is just behind us right now. And there was about a few hundred people just lying in the road, just relaxing. There was no English Defence League, everyone's just chatting, catching up. Like, what are you doing here? Oh, I've got to represent, man. You know, everyone's just chilling. And there was police vans started driving down the road. No one paid attention until they started like accelerating and they pulled up onto the curb to try and hit people, and I've got it on camera. And I was just like, Lord, I was filming it on top of this dustbin. And the van got so close to me, it almost hit me and I had to jump down and we ran back. And then it was strange because I just thought to myself, nah, what's this? And then I stopped and I stood. The police horses were coming and the horse stopped just in front of my face. And a group of random people, we all just linked arms and we just said, nah, that's like, what are we running for? We did nothing wrong. So we all kind of stood there in solidarity. And out of nowhere, the police just kind of ran through, started hitting people. And if it weren't for some guy I've never even met before, I would have been hit in the head, and he just kind of pulled me back and kind of saved me from some serious injury.
I had personally no problem with the police. Lots of my friends did. 17, 18 years old, starting going clubs. A couple of times I was stopped. And I got, in them times, they could call you whatever they want to call you, blatantly, and very bad. I've been in the cells a couple of times.
Oh gosh, the police. Oh, where do you want me to start? I remember one incident where on a Sunday morning I used to play netball for a team and we used to play at the Victoria Leisure Centre. And I remember getting into a fight with a young lady. The police was called and I was arrested. And when they arrested me and put me in the back of the police van, they beat me up. They torn ligaments in my leg and I was in plaster for 22 weeks. Took them through the court system, but nothing never became of it. So, no, didn't like the police at all.
Me personally didn't have nothing to do with the police, you know what I mean? But I was at a place where there was an incident happen and 3 police came in. One was a woman and one was dual heritage and the other one was a white guy. And this woman just started laying to this young black guy, I'm gonna say geezer, young black guy. And I was watching her and I said to her, what are you doing that for? And she said that she feels threatened by him. So I turned around and said to her, how can you be threatened by him? And there's 3 of you and 2 hefty men standing here. And like I said, you know, you don't want to preserve sentence and people. I just said to her, you know something, woman? I wish that your womb has never been blessed. Because if you can treat another human being like this, wow.
A lot of that was happening, you know, they were arresting, it was mainly guys. Arresting guys and beating them up while they were in custody. Never dreamt that it would ever happen to me. I was involved in the Hyson Green riots.
I personally was not involved with them because I had 2 small children.
It was about change, it's about, same thing like what Boston was saying, it's about oppression. you know, police brutality.
We were quite excited by the riots at that time because it was almost like, yeah, here's an expression of young people taking action. And it was so huge across the country, and I think very much the authorities then were kind of like, they were stewing around. They really didn't know how to respond to it.
The stuff going on in Brixton, going on down in Bristol, all over the country in Leicester. Little Leicester was battling out, and we were fighting and fighting for what we believed in.
I got a phone call to say that we were going to do something in the riot. So I got dressed, said to my mum, do you mind watching my son? I'm just nipping to Lyson Green to my sister's. A car came to pick me up, went to Lyson Green, put my balaclava on and all my dark clothing.
It was wrong, but I understood why it came about, because I think there's a big frustration.
My job was to fill the bottles with petrol, put the torches in and light them, so the people that was with us could throw them at the police.
It was a good thing and it was also a bad thing. The good thing was young black male especially was so fed up of police harassing them. They go for a job, they couldn't get this job. The parents, especially the men, the parents was looking at them like this says.
Because I didn't like what was happening to black people in those days. There was a lot of this killing in custody and beating up in custody, and nobody seemed to want to take responsibility, so that was our way of rebelling. At the time it was wrong, but you know, thinking about it now, no, I feel quite proud that I did something to try and make a difference, yeah.
In 2011, I was involved in the riots, but I wouldn't even call it riots. I'll go as far as saying I was involved in the uprising.
They stemmed from the killing of Mark Duggan.
It was a lot of pent-up anger and frustration of the young people that were involved in the riots.
That's what was taken on by a lot of members of the black community, that this young man has been killed. And it could be my brother next. It could be my son, my uncle, my best friend.
To use that as a reason to go and loot and to raid innocent people, it's not justifiable. How can you go to the corner man and rinse out his shop because the police did that to this man? That doesn't make sense. So for me, I feel that the right method would have been to lobby and to unite as a people and to march.
Our generation, we've lost that passion and that drive to kind of want to go and get 100 of us and go and march around town for an hour. People would laugh at that in our generation.
I think this time when it happened, the government, the police, the Home Office were prepared and they had a plan.
Something that still haunts me today and really irritates me and grinds my gears is David Cameron, or whoever it was at the time, said, oh, all these copycat riots. And that really infuriated me, because that just shown to me that you're an ignorant little man and you don't believe that the issues faced by one community in North London aren't shared by communities across England. Why do you think those issues are isolated to one particular community?
I feel like the riots was definitely staged. It was definitely a result that the police wanted, because the day before the riots happened, the police were protesting. There was going on about budget cuts. It was all over the paper, the press, about police cuts and fire service and national health service cuts.
I believe writing's, you know, the way to be heard.
I think there's an MC called Logic who put it best. If we're not violent, the media is silent. It's only when people started licking down feds, or people started being aggressive towards one another, or people felt that, you know, their profits were at risk, that people started taking note, that the powers that be said, rah, these people are, you know, vexed.
I would describe myself as a third generation British-born Jamaican. And I say that because I want to incorporate those parts.
In my head, I'm black/African Caribbean. I don't label myself as Black British.
When you go to Jamaica, they can tell you an Englishman, right? I don't always feel British?
Black British. Am I Black British though? I often ask myself that question, am I Black British? Because I remember once at school, the teacher told me that I could not be Black and British. I had to be Jamaican.
People, like fellow peers, would still tell me to go back to where I come from. So it's as though I wasn't British. But then older Jamaican relatives, they would also refer to me as the English boy. As they would say, the English boy, or the British boy. And so you'd almost feel in limbo, like you just don't know if you're coming or going or where you come from or where you know what I mean?
So at this moment in time, I actually can't put a name on it, but I would say something along the lines of Black, British, Jamaican, probably African at the end.
I'd say I'm British and I'm mixed race, yeah.
Well, I've always put on paperwork Black British.
That is a large issue for myself personally, because I'm like, well, look, my kind of Caribbean ties are wearing thin now. I'm like third generation, but at the same time, I don't identify with what it means to be British. So we're kind of in this limbo.
I would say Black British also, but with the codicil mixed race dual heritage, just because, you know, people might go black. But, you know, that's, as I say, that's, you know, that's the, that's the issue.
Black and British. Black and British. Shh. Why can't I just be a human being? Why can't I just be a black girl or a black boy and I've grown up in England?
For me, acceptance was always the biggest thing, definitely at school growing up. I always wanted to be treated the same and to be treated fairly, to be treated like my white counterparts.
Why does race make us different? It doesn't.
As a young adult, it was really tough, in other words, because all the time you always have to be proving yourself, you know what I mean? And the jobs was there and the was not there, same thing. And there were certain places you were allowed, you know, to go into, and when you go into certain places, you did not feel comfortable because you look around and perhaps it might be just you one.
What we're being fed by the media has a lot to do with it. So people usually associate these kind of negative stereotypes to Black British people.
I come from a very political family who were very forthright about their identity and who they are as Black people. I've always been brought up within my household knowing of my history, knowing of what makes me proud to be a Black individual, and so which is why I identify myself as a Black female, despite what other people might say. A lot of individuals on it, I think today, complexion issue is one thing, talking about identity. Being that my mum's a mixed race person and what she looks like, I've always been told, you know, you're mixed race, you're not Black, what are you? You know, that sort of thing. And I think at 21, I'm able to identify as a Black female, and I think I'm comfortable within who I am. I don't think that's always been the case for me though, which is the same for my mum.
Definitely, yeah, that's true, that's true. Yeah.
A lot of what the media cover, it adds a certain judgmental view and attitude towards certain people. So if I walk into an establishment, people look at me and think, oh, who's this guy in his trainers and his hoodie?
For me in the 80s, this real insecurity around, will I be able to get a job? Will I be successful? You know, how am I going to be able to do this or that? You know, when am I going to be able to drive? And we had the yuppie culture as well, so there was kind of little pressures that were coming from there. So those anxieties, you know, am I beautiful enough? You know, those kinds of things were with us. And I think some of those things will be echoed today.
Majorly.
Yes.
I am very, 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 very positive about the future, because there's an old saying, the cream rises to the top. Boston is the cream. And the young people that we have, they have positive minds. He talks about being entrepreneurs. I've not worked for anybody for 20 years. Same thing like these young people. A lot of my friends were like, you're not gonna get a pension. You can't do that, Carl. And I'm like, you're telling me I can't. I'm stubborn, I'm going to. So the future for me, when I look, It's not about the politics. It's about you as an individual. And that's why I look at Boston, and the cream always rises to the top.
I think I'm an optimistic person in general, you know, so whilst things can be bad, I still hope that they will get better.
I think as long as you understand where your glass ceiling is and understand how you're going to break through it, your future can be quite bright.
No, I don't feel very optimistic because I thought racism was dying out, but it seems to be coming back with a vengeance. So unless this next generation can hook it, then I don't know what's going to happen.
I think we just have to hope. That's what I can think. I don't know the answer to that one. I think we're working on the right direction anyway. You know, we live in such a diverse world now, and people are aware of a lot of things. We're much more tolerant of each other these days. So I think the future should be better, and I hope it will be.
I feel very optimistic. I feel that's one positive thing that I feel that your generation has done and made possible for our generation. They've made it very, very possible to become what you want to become. I mean, you're still going to be told by specific people that, no, you're not going to be this or you're not going to be that. But I feel like, as a whole, society is definitely enabling me to become what I want to become. I'm not to say that I'm not facing tasks and walls, because I hit walls every day. But it's about climbing over them walls. I break them walls down. It's the resilience, and that is what I was taught when I was younger.
What I think my generation's legacy will be.
My generation, I would say, is creative, the wave for people to sit up and take notice that there was black children that was born in this country and is not going anywhere.
I think we definitely made waves. I think we're born here. I think we stood up and said we have a right to be here, and we expressed that in different ways. I think we've brought richness to this country in terms of music, identity, food, culture, politics. We've made a huge contribution.
Our generation, you know, we're very smart individuals, very educated individuals that are making waves everywhere, all around the world.
The generation which took the baton from the previous generation.
Well, the waves that my generation have created will probably be known when I'm 6 foot under.
What I think my generation has done now, I think society is at a place where we're beginning to take young people more seriously, and we're given a pedestal. With things such as social media, we're not as politicised as you guys were, but maybe we are, and we do it in a different way.
My generation said we wanted a bit more, and we fought for it, maybe, sometimes wrongly. We said, well, why can't we have our own house? Why can't our children go to the best schools? Why can't we have a car?
I think we're making a lot of positive waves at the moment. I think a lot of young people are coming through with like music and film, even just little things, doing things out of the box. I think the social media, a lot of people are using that to their advantage.
I hope that my generation's created positive waves as much as possible, because there is a younger generation coming up behind us, and it's about what we leave for them.
We have made waves, but I feel like my generation have become less distant as far as coming together as a community. We're more in touch with each other, communication-wise, because of social networking and social media, but I feel like we are further apart.
I think we made a big wave. Like I say, we've paved the way for the next generation to have it a lot easier than what we had. And I just hope that they utilise it and make sure that they leave something for the next generation that's coming along.
Under construction, currently making waves.
Making waves? Why does it need to be waves? Why can't it be was it a typhoon or tsunami?
Who knows what waves my generation are going to make? I think we're making ripples. As is. We're making ripples, and it's it's like you said, it's got to be a tsunami, and it's seismic. It's, you know what I mean, it's 8 on the Richter scale.
You leave a legacy when you've gone, and that's when the waves will come.
I am standing on the shoulders of giants. They make a wave, so I have to make even a bigger wave, and says, here I am. Oh, I'm here. I ain't going nowhere. I'm here.